Good evening, fellow truth seekers. Welcome to another beautiful Sabbath day. Today, we're continuing our study in the second coming of Jesus. I want to remind everybody that the second coming is clearly a promise of Jesus. He said in John 14, 1-3, I'm going to prepare a place for you. And if I go and prepare a place for you, I'm coming again. And I'm going to get you and take you to where I am. Not I'm going to come down here and rule for 1,000 years. There are so many false narratives on what Jesus said or how to interpret what Jesus said. So let's look at the understanding of Jesus from a Jewish point of view, because Jesus is a Jew.
Yep.
So, in the Jewish year, Jesus came and was crucified on Passover, or similar in that. And in that's the first of the 7 Jewish holidays. And Passover is in the spring, which is the month of Nisan, 17-21. Now, this commemorates the destructive angel passing over the Jews down in Egypt. Now, at Passover, it says that Nicodemus asked for the body of Jesus to get his body down before the Sabbath. Mm-hmm. So within that probably is April 3, 33 AD. And as you know, there was a darkness in the sun for 3 hours. Well, NASA has confirmed that there was, at that exact time, a 3-hour a 3-hour eclipse. So that means Jesus probably started this off in 33 AD. Then we've got the 7 days of the unleavened bread, which is the very next week. That's Nisan 15-21. And then we have the first fruits, and then we have Pentecost. So those were the first of the year in the spring, when Jesus came the first time. And the second 3 are in the fall, which pertain not to Jesus' first coming, because he's already answered all of those, but in the second coming, they are for the fall. Now, it says in Leviticus 33:15 that is the Feast of Trumpets. Now, the Jews have this unusual policy that if you can't see the moon, then you got to wait for the next day. So there are flexibility in the calendar based upon the weather. So with that, it says we've got the Feast of Trumpets. And after the Feast of Trumpets, you got 10 days until the Day of Atonement or the Day of Judgment. And then during the Day of Judgment, we're all in what they call the Feast of Tabernacles. It's showing that we're protected in God's care during the wrath of God. So if you were to look at this, and I know there's a lot of comments right now that September 23 is the day of trumpets this year, and that they're thinking that this year will be the year that Jesus comes. While that's possible, it's probably not likely. And the reason is not from a prophetic prophecy of 7 years or any of those type of human stretches of the interpretations of Daniel Revelation, but if we look at the Bible from a standpoint of 7 days equals 7,000 years, a day for 1,000 years is according to God, then you've got the first 4 years as 4,000 years till Jesus, first time. Then you've got 2,000 years before the 6,000 years are up. And then you've got the millennium, that 1,000 years that we spend with Jesus in heaven. And at the end of that, he comes down with the holy city and all of us with him, and he sets up his new kingdom in the new earth.
So is it the second coming or a third coming?
Well, that's a good point. That will really be the third coming, because Jesus comes down and gets us according to John 14, 1-3. So let's look at this for a minute.
So in other words, Jerry, Jesus he comes the second time. He is coming to get us, but not to rule here. He's
Correct.
Not touching the earth.
Right. Correct. In fact, he comes, it says, let's read it, just a couple texts on this. It's very simple. It says, at Jesus' coming, all who belong to him will be raised. 1 Corinthians 15, 22-23. All those who belong to Jesus will be raised. It does not mean all of God's people throughout all time that have died and, quotes, gone to heaven, will go back into the ground and be raised so they can go up with him. God doesn't work that way. So then it says in 1 Corinthians 15, 51-52, at the last trumpet, the dead in Christ shall rise first, and we who are alive will be caught up. So yes, Loja, we're moving up. And of course, there's a lot of definitions of what that moving up means. Is it the rapture? I'm inclined not to use that term because it has so many different meanings. And the rapture came from a girl back in the 1700s that was sick and had a dream and told her pastor about that the next weekend. And he said, that's a great idea. Let's just use that term.
Let's get out of here.
Yeah, I like this. So obviously there is a second coming. It says, at the last trump, the dead will rise, imperishable, and the living are transformed. Either way, fellow truth seekers, it don't matter. You're going up. Whether you die and are asleep or you are awake at his coming. Okay. And we want you to be awake.
Yes, for sure.
And without being awake, the probability is 50-50. If you're asleep, you're lost. Because half the virgins wake up and have run out of oil. Yeah. So it's like, oh, sugar.
So by the time they come back from Walmart to get some oil, it will be too late.
Yes, and I don't know if you can get the right kind of oil at
Yeah,
Walmart.
at Walmart, we don't know that.
I mean, nothing wrong with Walmart oil. Just saying. But now, we're learning that in Corinthians, but then let's also look at what Paul says in 1 Thessalonians 4:13. The dead in Christ shall rise first. Then living believers are caught up to meet him in the air. Okay. Now, it says in a number of places at the last trump, the dead in Christ shall rise. So that gives a lot of people the understanding that, okay, the Feast of Trumpets is when Jesus is going to come and we're going to go to heaven. So let's assume that that's right. But 2,000 years is 33.
Yeah.
So Nissan, month 7 of 33 could be somewhere in the September, October timeline.
Mm-hmm.
But he may come sooner. I'm not saying 33 is the year. I'm saying that would be the exact 2,000 years.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, we know our citizenship is in heaven.
Yes.
Okay?
Yeah.
That doesn't say our citizenship is on this earth. And that's critical, fellow truth seekers. It says your citizenship, and that's Philippians 3:20 and 21. Your citizenship is in heaven. Why is everybody so obsessed with getting Jesus down here and redoing all of this for 1,000 years, where we supposedly kick the tar out of everybody who's not a believer? It just doesn't make sense. But there's so many stories running around that I think you got as many stories as you do. China has rice.
Well, California.
Well, actually, Arkansas.
Arkansas has more rice than China.
Yes, Arkansas. So there's truth in Arkansas, fellow truth seekers. So let's look at it. We've got the Feast of Trumpets. Probably not this year, but probably soon. And it says, and the believers eagerly waiting for Christ's revealing will be sustained. Uh-oh. If you're not eagerly believing, and just to make sure you understand that, that's 1 Corinthians 1, 7 and 8. It says, the believers who are eagerly waiting will be sustained. If you're not eagerly waiting, doesn't guarantee you sustainability. So I'm suggesting that as we understand the Feast of Trumpets is the beginning of the coming of Jesus, and who said Jesus' coming is only one day?
No, it's not one day.
I mean, this is the greatest event of all times.
I know, right? And because every eye shall see it, so that means 24 hours, the earth makes the circle.
So
or
it's going to be a minimum.
A minimum 24 hours.
Yeah. So I would like to think that the first 10 days are the coming of Jesus. I mean, that's 10 days. But what happens on the 10th day? Every Christian, dead or alive, better be raised and in the clouds. Because the day of judgment, that's when the wrath of God begins, on the Day of Atonement. And we do not want to be down on this earth when the judgment starts. And then, guess what? After the judgment, and there are almost a week before we get into the final, and that's the Feast of Tabernacles, which is where we're all studying, we're all in the shelters that God provides and protects. So while that judgment is going on, we're in the clouds, moving up to the wedding supper of the Lamb. And when the day of judgment and wrath is past, we are all in heaven, sitting at the wedding supper of the Lamb. So it does look like the fall, God has it all planned out. Now, he hasn't announced which year, but we know that it's close. Mm-hmm. And we know that we're eagerly waiting. So, fellow truth seekers, wake up. Wake up. Answer the loud cry. That's that Revelation 18:1 angel. Goes forth with a loud cry saying, come out of the world. Come out. And don't partake of her sins. Well, I'm telling you, come out from her and don't partake of the wrath of God that's being poured out on her. So you don't want to be a part of this world when the wrath of God, the Day of Atonement, 10 days after This year would be September 23. Next year would be different, and each year until 2033. So we now know we're in the season, we're in the time, but the call is to get ready. And fellow truth seekers, not only get ready, but leave the world. Come out of the world. That doesn't mean you go hide in the jungles or in the caves. No, we get motivated. We get the word. We do what Charlie Kirk has done. We go and we discuss and we do everything we can to wake up all of God's people. Thank you, fellow truth seekers. Accept the challenge and pass on the cry that, behold, the bridegroom cometh. Here's the king. Thank you and have a blessed day.